Hello, my friends, and welcome back to my channel. My name is David, and today we have the next installment of Booktuber Recommends, a video I've been meaning to make for the last week. And it's probably going to be short, which is not to be a slight at all about the picks or the person doing the picking, but more of I really wanted to get this up, and there's just so much of a crunch of time that I'm trying to find a very, very small window here. So my recommendations were from Anne with a Book, and if you have not checked out her channel before, I will have her link down below. Go check it out. It's a fantastic channel. She reads a lot of different variety of books. She does a lot of classics, and towards the end of the year, she was delving very deep into some medieval readings to prepare her for writing for NaNoWriMo in a medieval kind of setting. I happened to hit her up when she was in the middle of that. So her recommendations to me were very medieval in flavor. And if you know me, that is perfect. Absolutely perfect. So, like most of the people, she did not give a recommendation on a graphic novel, which is fine. There was no pressure there. I probably could just pick up and read Northlanders again to fill that medieval gap. But let's talk about what she did recommend, and all of these were absolute hits. So my least favorite thing that she recommended, and here, there's a caveat that goes with it, The Romance of Tristan by Beyrul. And the only reason that it was, I don't want to say it fell flat, because it's not it at all. The only reason it was soured slightly was because I had just read Tristan by Gottfried von Strasberg, which kind of takes what Beyrul did and expands it and fleshes it out a bit more. So going from reading that and almost immediately rolling into Beyrul, it was enjoyable. And if you want a concise variation of the story, this is the way to go. But they are very, very close images, at least in the main story beats. Both absolutely well worth reading, and if they're spaced apart, you could easily read, own, and enjoy both. But I had read the Tristan because it was in my medieval romances book, which I picked up as a result of the novella recommendation she gave me, which was Sir Gawain and the Green Knight. So rather than grab my medieval romances, I wanted to grab my nice little Tolkien one here. So Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, which I read out of the medieval romances book, which had 8 different romances, including Sir Orfeo in there. But it also had Tristan and Sir Gawain and the Green Knight needs no introduction. I love this thing to pieces. I have taught it now for 3 terms in a row in Intro to Lit classes alongside Beowulf, because they've got to get some medieval flavor, and by and large they enjoy it. There's a few that complain that it's hard to understand. Either I don't follow poetry, or oh man, it's just the language is so old. I mean, really? The Seamus Heaney translation of Beowulf, the language is old? Not really. But anyway, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, big winner. Which brings us to the poem, which is also a really big winner. And if I were to pick my favorite between the poem or Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, I'd be hard pressed. It's the Battle of Maldon, which I'm pretty sure in 2021 I did as a Poetry Thursday. I'm going to go look back, and if I can find it, I will link it down below. I probably didn't do as great of a job. But if I haven't done it, then rest assured this next Thursday I will rectify that and read the Battle of Maldon in its entirety of what we have. And it is one of my favorite poems, period. Hard stop. And probably my favorite medieval poem. it's fantastic. It's got everything you would expect from an age of warriors in battle and taking place in the Battle of Malden. And so that brings us to the book that she recommended. This would probably be, if I were ranking them, Beirut being at the bottom, this would probably be next up. But again, not because it was bad by any stretch of the imagination. And that is The History of the Kings of Britain by Geoffrey of Monmouth, which was just so phenomenal to revisit. Everything but Beirut was a reread for me, and even that was technically almost a reread after, as I said, right on the heels of the von Strasberg. But History of the Kings of Britain, I in my mind, when I was pulling it off the shelf, was expecting it to be closer in feel to Anglo-Saxon Chronicle, which I reread in 2021 and still enjoyed. But it was kind of dry at spots. This does not suffer from that one bit. This is very readable, very enjoyable, and it spends a lot of time with King Arthur and Merlin and those characters. I mean, I couldn't believe how much of a role they play in this, and I knew this was one of the earlier mentions of King Arthur. But, yeah, I was surprised that it ended up having a very, very significant chunk following that. And that in itself was just absolutely delightful. I really enjoyed it. I'm glad I finally revisited it, because it had been a good number of years. And it's got me thinking that I should probably round it out with two other medieval works that I haven't read in probably 8 to 10 years. I know I enjoy. I've got both of them sitting on my shelf, and they're probably due for a reread. The Ecclesiastical History of the English People by Bede, and Consolation of Philosophy by Boethius. I'm due for Bede and Boethius rereads. I probably ought to do that. We're talking about a year of favorites. Those are definite favorites. But my fear is if I do that, then I'm going to go and want to dive into Chaucer, which isn't bad, but that's, yeah, we'll see. Maybe I'll be revisiting Chaucer and Shakespeare and Spenser this year instead of some of the more recent authors. So we'll see which way it goes. It still very much qualifies in a year of favorites to go into those as well. So we'll see. This was a fun one. So Anne, thank you so much. I was so happy to revisit some old favorites and find a new favorite in spite of the von Strasberg. Beirut was just, it was fun. One that I definitely will come back to at some point. Not as back to back. And let it stand on its own and shine in that in that capacity. So, anyway, it's getting late. I'm winding down. I need to wrap this up. Fingers crossed. Maybe tomorrow I'll get a weekend reads up. Maybe. And maybe I'll even finish one more book and be able to do my next update on my 500 challenge. That'd be great too. So we'll see. We'll see what tomorrow holds. I have no promises, but I'll try early in the week, if nothing else, to get one of those up. And thank you, Booktube. Have a great day.